Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope that you all had a very Merry Christmas and were able to take some time to just take a deep breath, relax, and just rest in the peace and comfort that comes with celebrating Christmas and remembering the birth of Jesus and all of the things that he did here on earth, and looking forward to the second coming of Christ and the hope that that instills within us, looking towards Jesus, looking towards God. So I hope you are able to spend some quality time together and just have a Merry Christmas, to be able to celebrate, take a deep breath, and just rest in the hope that we find in God. Also hope that you are all having a very happy new year as you get back into the swing of things. Hope you guys are doing well as we enter 2021. And so this Wednesday, we're back into our Wednesday night lessons. And so, as you know, we've been going through the Gospel of Matthew. This week we will be talking about something in Matthew chapter 7. And so I encourage you guys to read through this gospel, go through us with these chapters each week if you're at home, or even if you are meeting us in person. Read through these chapters, because there's a lot of really, really cool stuff in here, and a lot of really important stuff for kind of our core faith tenets that we find in here, especially in the Sermon on the Mount, which started in Matthew chapter 5, that we'll kind of finish out here in Matthew chapter 7. Jesus teaching about all these different things, giving instructions and teaching about what it kind of means to live life with a Christian perspective, a Christian worldview, and what it means to really put God, what our life should look like if we are putting God at the center of our lives and looking to God for our wisdom, for our knowledge, and for kind of what our lives should look like. So, a passage I want to talk about is in Matthew chapter 7. It starts in verse 15 and goes 15 through 21. And essentially, Jesus is talking about trees and fruit here, and uses this idea of trees and fruit to talk about what is coming out of our lives. Talking about how good trees are going to produce good fruit, bad trees are going to produce bad fruit. It doesn't go the other way around. Good trees don't produce bad fruit, and vice versa. Bad trees aren't going to produce good fruit. And so Jesus uses this to talk about our lives in general, specifically our spiritual lives, and how that relates to the things that we're actually doing, our words, our actions, our thoughts, kind of what we're projecting onto the world. Jesus talking about if we have God, and if we're worshiping God, thinking godly things, and we have this good foundation, this good tree that things are stemming from, which is going to produce good fruit. If we're following God, if we're listening to God and taking in godly things, then we're going to produce godly fruit. We are going to produce good fruit with our lives. But if we aren't, if we're consuming all these other bad things, if we're consuming, there are a lot of bad things that we can consume. But in general, if we are consuming bad things, and if we are consuming things that aren't from God, we aren't going to bear good fruit. You can't do all of these bad things, consume all these bad things, and expect good results, and expect a good, healthy spiritual life. Jesus is saying you need to follow God. You need to look at God, look at those things, consume those things, and then godly things are going to flow through you. But that's not going to happen if we're following bad things, if we're following things that we shouldn't be, looking to people who we shouldn't be, looking at things we shouldn't be. And so Jesus kind of uses this example to talk about our lives, our spiritual lives, and just kind of what we do with our lives. And so I think this is a pretty cool passage, and very, very relevant today, as we have a lot of different things that we can choose to listen to, that we can choose to follow, that we can choose to partake in and consume. Unfortunately, most of these things aren't great, and they definitely aren't godly. And so Jesus is continuously pointing us towards these godly things, these good things, to produce good fruit, because that's the kind of fruit that we want to have. We want to be able to project godly things unto the rest of the world and build God's kingdom. But we can't do that if we aren't focusing on God. We can't be projecting godly things if we don't know God, if we don't have that relationship, if we don't have that foundation, and if we aren't consuming godly things. So I would encourage you guys to look, and Jesus issues a challenge with this, and the challenge is to look at what type of fruit your life is producing. What is happening? What are you projecting? What's coming out of your mouth? What are you doing? with your life. You know, how do you talk to people? How do you interact with people? Because that shows a lot of what we're actually consuming. And so I encourage you guys to take a look at, you know, how are you talking to people? What are you saying in general? How are you interacting with your siblings, with your family, with any other people you may be in contact with, either virtually or in person? You know, how are you interacting with people, and what are you projecting onto them? Are you projecting godly things, or are you projecting non-godly things? And so I'd encourage you guys to look at that, think about that, and just, if you aren't projecting godly things, I encourage you to read the Gospel of Matthew, read the things that Jesus is talking about, talk to people who you think are projecting godly things, look at examples and things people are talking about to kind of get a good idea of what that might look like. And if you are, keep doing it. You can't, this isn't something that you just do a couple times, you're like, okay, I'm good. You can continuously do it, continuously work on it, and continuously be looking to God as your source for the things that you are doing and saying, thinking. So I'd encourage you guys to do that. I'd encourage you guys to read through of all of Matthew. Even go back and read chapters 5, 6, and 7. Read through this whole Sermon on the Mount at once and kind of see all the different things that Jesus points to. Jesus kind of gives this big, overarching, broad idea of what it means to live a life that is centered around God as he moves into his physical ministry and traveling ministry, as he goes to healings, performs miracles, and does all the other things, and continues teaching as well. So I'd encourage you guys to read this, encourage you guys to study it, and just examine the fruit that is coming from your life. What are you projecting onto other people? What are you, what's coming out of your mouth? What are you consuming? And be able to evaluate that and see what it looks like. So, hope you guys are doing well. If you have any questions, any comments, want to talk about anything, please let me know. Miss you guys. Hope that you are doing well. And I think that's all I got. So, peace out.